ever wish your day wasn't dictated by your health? Are you tired of being tired all the time, or is pain holding you back from enjoying your time with your family? Would you like to manage your symptoms holistically, but you just don't know where to begin? I am so excited that you're here. This podcast will help you understand how natural remedies work so you can relieve your symptoms and live a fuller life. My name is Penny. I'm an occupational therapist, past pharmaceutical rep, a mom, and a wife with a strong faith, and for 25 years, I battled through debilitating Crohn's disease. I took all the medicine and did all the surgeries that stole so much time with my family, but never truly healed me. I finally realized if I was going to survive this disease, I needed to open my stubborn eyes to alternative solutions. I researched how perfectly our bodies work with plants and a lifestyle that made my health less of a burden to my family and aligned so beautifully with my faith and my medical training. If you are ready to reclaim your life with holistic options that are easy to implement as a busy mom and provide relief that lasts, this is the podcast for you. Hey, Becoming Natural fans. How are you today? This is Penny. Episode 57, I think. Folate versus folic acid, recommended nutrient withheld that women really need to know about. So I'm very excited about this episode. I learned a lot, and I'm just going to warn you, there's some big, long words here that I probably am not going to pronounce properly at first, but it's a mouthful, but very, very important, and something I have been hearing a lot in conversation lately that I wanted to dive into and clarify. So if you're listening to this episode and you're anything like me, you're hungry for the truth, you're curious, you care about your health, not from fear, not from pressure, but because you're learning. You're learning how to live inside your body with wisdom and what works, and maybe all the things that we learned in the past or synthetic things made in a lab aren't necessarily as good for us as we once thought. So you want to understand how God designed the human body to heal, to repair, to adapt, and how sometimes modern health advice can get a little noisy. Most of all, as I've researched, read, dug deep through the last year for every episode, which I have truly loved, I have opened my eyes to the fact that our bodies are actually created perfectly. Our bodies are not created to be sick. And on that rare moment of illness, it knows how to heal. But if we're not keeping our vitamins, our minerals, our stress, our external pressures in check, and our bodies in nature, our bodies will inevitably break. We were not designed to be inside in a cubicle under fake light, out, hidden from the sunshine, but out in the sunshine and the fresh air. I had no idea how truly physical nature is when it comes to keeping your body healthy. We need to be outside and in nature. Then we can hopefully reduce our needs for medications and correct our body from the inside out and the outside in. It's absolutely amazing. Today, we're going to talk about something that shows up almost everywhere in food and the vitamin world. In prenatal vitamins, breakfast cereal, flour, breads, energy drinks, even your kids' gummy vitamins. It's fortified into half of the food system. It's folic acid. I've recently come upon many discussions, as I told you, or podcasts I've heard about talking about folic acid and folate and all the things, and I had to figure out a little bit more. I perked up, so I took a dive. So here's the catch. Folic acid is not the same thing as folate, and that difference matters. It's huge, especially for women and especially during pregnancy, especially if you ever heard the term the mother effer gene or wondered why your body feels like it works harder than it should. So today we're going to talk about what folic acid is, what folate is, why women are told to actually supplement it, and how it ends up inside almost every processed grain. What happens if your body can't use that folic acid, and how to gently support your body with what it actually recognizes as nourishment. So this is a conversation full of grace. There's no shame, no panic, no overhauling your life. Like I always say, just one more thing that we need to understand so that we can advocate for ourselves, empower ourselves, and then we can turn around and share it with other people. So let's just learn, and let's learn what we've learned that might not be so good and how we can change for the future. So folate is a natural B vitamin. It's actually vitamin B9, and it comes from food that is actually alive. Leafy greens, avocado, lentils and chickpeas, eggs, beets, citrus fruits, and liver if you're brave enough. Folate is something God actually placed in creation, and our bodies use it. It uses it for lots of things, actually, for our DNA repair, for red blood cell formation, for tissue and wound healing, for fetal, spinal cord, and brain development, making neurotransmitters. Why do I say transplant every time? Making neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine, and for the big word that I am sure you have heard because it feels like a trendy word these days, is methylation. Methylation is the body's on and off switch for Detoxing for mood, for hormones. It is essential. God designed you to need it. So yes, folate is a vitamin and we need it to be methylated, which is active. And methylation is where the story becomes deeply meaningful. Yet another word that is coming to the surface, getting methylated vitamins, methylated this, methylated that. What the heck is methylation? So you may have heard it floating around, methylation support, methylated vitamins, and of course the mother effer gene. So let's simplify it. Methylation is your body's on and off switch, like we said. Think of it as a way your body tags molecules, and it tells these molecules what to do. And it is happening billions of times every second inside of you. So here's the simplest way to explain it. A methyl group is basically a tiny chemical tag that's made of one carbon atom and 3 hydrogen atoms. That's as deep as we're going to go into chemistry. But this little methyl group attaches that tag to different things in order to activate, to deactivate, or to transform them within our body. And why does that matter? Because methylation is how our body detoxifies chemicals, medications, pesticides, even our own hormones when we're done using them. So not the trendy form of detox. That's why we have a liver. It detoxifies out all of the bad things that happen to get into our body. It's our protection. It's our armor. So methylation is hugely responsible for that. So when we can't detoxify because of poor methylation, then chemicals and toxins start building up in our body, and then we start having really bad symptoms and illness. Methylation also builds neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine. These are all your mood chemicals. It balances estrogen and it clears used hormones from the body, regulates your stress response, repairs your DNA after stress, illness, or a trauma, and it creates healthy nerve and brain cells while also supporting immune function. So yes, methylation is a major deal. It's very quiet, but it's foundational. It's always moving and organizing, bringing order where there could be chaos. You don't always see it happening, but you absolutely feel it when it's absent. So how does folate fuel this? Your body needs folate to create those methyl groups. But most supplements and fortified foods don't contain natural folate. They contain folic acid, which was made in a lab. So here's the key difference between the two. Folate is natural, it's found in your food, it's ready to be used by the body. Folic acid is synthetic, created in a lab, but it has to be converted before it can be used and available and active. And that is much more work on your body than if you just got folate from your food. So your body needs the folate, which is vitamin B9, specifically methylated folate, to make those methyl groups, right? The groups that enact change in our body. Turn things on, turn things off. But folic acid in the synthetic form has to be converted first before the body can use it. And if your methylation pathway is slow, like with the mother effer gene variation, that conversion bottlenecks. And then you get a backup and you get problems. So you may have plenty of folic acid running around your system, but not enough methyl groups to run the show. Does that make sense? So what happens when you don't have enough methyl groups? The folic acid that's in all of our fortified foods and processed foods enters your body, but it does not fully convert into a usable form of folate. So it builds up in the bloodstream. Meanwhile, the body remains low in actual usable folate. So the methylation slows down. Those little chemical processes are slowing down because they're not getting made. And when methylation slows, you may feel anxiety or mood instability. PMS symptoms may intensify, hormonal overwhelm, sluggish detox, fatigue that doesn't make sense, brain fog, emotional heaviness, inflammation increases, not because your body is broken at all, and not because you're too sensitive. It's because the form of the vitamin in your body is not usable. It's like folate is the groceries plus a working stove. Folic acid is the groceries with no heat to cook them. So folate is the raw ingredient. Methylation is the cooking, the converting, and the nourishing process to make it usable. So the ingredients are there, but your body can't turn it into actual nourishment. And that conversion depends upon the mother effer gene. 40 to 60% of women have a variation in the mother effer gene that makes conversions slow. So why does this matter so much? And I'm going to hit just a little bit here on pregnancy. Obviously, I've had my 3 wonderful babies, but this is important and why I raised a red flag because I remember always being told to take extra folate, and I didn't know the difference between folate and folic acid. But the baby's brain and spinal cord begin forming at 18 to 28 days, often before we even know that we're pregnant. That formation requires usable folate or methylated folate. Folate is crucial for the cellular division in babies, especially for their brain and spinal cord development, placenta formation, and a healthy nervous system. This is why women are told to take prenatal vitamins before they even get pregnant because they need that folate even when they don't even know they're pregnant yet, because those portions of the baby's creation take place before we even know it. So, folate, not folic acid, is like the blueprint designer for new life. Not folic acid sitting in the bloodstream unconverted, but methylated folate actively participating in the cell formation. This is why we take our folic acid. The intention was right, but if the conversion step doesn't work out well, the support doesn't land. This does not mean worry. This means understand. So when we know better, we do better, and then we can share and we can empower others. So if you are deficient in folate, symptoms can be fatigue, pale skin, shortness of breath, anxiety or low mood, tingling in your hands and feet, slow wound healing, brain fog, and during pregnancy, you're at increased risk for neural tube defect. That's where the brain and the spinal cord don't close on the baby. I'll get into that in a second. So what is folic acid then? Folic acid is the synthetic lab-made version of folate. It was invented in the 1940s, isolated and synthesized from cattle liver during research into anemia treatment. It does not exist naturally in any food. Think of it like folate is the apple that you go out and pick off the tree, and folic acid is the apple-flavored gummy candy in a package at the store. They're not the same, even though the name sounds familiar. So how did folic acid enter our food system to begin with? In the 1990s, researchers discovered moms were low in B9. Moms that were low in B9 had a higher risk of babies being born with neural tube defects. When we say neural tube defects, we're talking about situations where the baby's brain or their spinal cord don't completely form or close in those first few weeks of development. That happens very, very early on in pregnancy, often before a mom knows she's expecting. An example would be spina bifida. So folic acid is a synthetic form of B9. It is not the same as the natural B9 found in food called folate. So yes, folic acid is classified as a B9, but the body can't use it as it is. It has to be converted to be able to be used to the active form or the methylated form. So in 1998, the US mandated that flour and grain products be fortified with folic acid. All this time, I bought sleeves of bread and all the things, crackers, and they all say fortified. And we thought, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Sure, I want it to be fortified. I had no idea what it was fortified with, but in actuality, fortified isn't as great as I thought it was. So why folic acid? Because it was cheap to produce, it was stable on shelves, and it was easy to mix into processed food. It's all about the bottom dollar, always. So suddenly, folic acid was everywhere. Cereal, bread, pasta, crackers, tortillas, pastries, all the yummy bready things, supplements, and especially prenatal vitamins. The intention was good, but the execution had gaps. The oversight is that the body's conversion system varies. So now the bread, pasta, cereal, crackers, snack foods, they contain a form of folic acid, basically, half folate, that half the population struggles to even use readily in our bodies. It's not our fault. It's not your doctor's fault. It's just new information we have to work around and understand. So I just wanted to highlight that when we're talking about methylated forms, and yes, methylated is good, but it's not necessarily everything that needs to be methylated. But some vitamins make a huge difference when they are methylated. So there's big 4 vitamins that are important for methylation, and they are folate, which is B9. It's basically your B vitamins. Folate, which is B9, vitamin B12, vitamin B6, and B2, which is also riboflavin. So what that means for methylation, folate brings the methyl groups. So B12, which is just vitamin B12, moves them into action. B6 turns on those nutrients, and it turns them into neurotransmitters that we feel as mood, calm, focus, and emotional steadiness. And then B2, which is riboflavin, is what switches the mother effer enzyme on, allowing folate to convert into the form that your body can use. Those are the big four that you want to have methylated: B2, 6, 9, and 12, the Bs. So if you focus on these, your methylation pathway is well supported. And all of that ties into folate and folic acid. But here's the important caution real quick about methylation. If you have too many methylated vitamins, especially too quickly, it can cause anxiety, wired but tired feeling, racing thoughts, irritability, trouble sleeping, overwhelm. Why is that? Because when methylation speeds up too fast, so does your nervous system. So this is why I always say with love that we're working with the body. We don't want to push it. We don't want to force it. We want to take baby steps. God does slow and steady restoration. So do our bodies. We're not going to heal overnight, and we don't need to go really wild and crazy. Let's go slow. So in nature, if we were still eating soil-rich vegetables and drinking untreated spring water, we'd get B12 from the bacteria in the soil and on the food. That's a good thing. But because our modern food supply is sanitized and chlorinated and sterilized, we simply don't get B12 the way we used to. So we supplement. So what is the wise approach? You can start by getting, if you're pregnant, or a prenatal vitamin or a multivitamin that uses L-methylfolate, which is, now you know what methylation is, but methyl is methyl, methylfolate, or methylcobalamin. So here's the difference. Folate, which is B9, is what your body uses to create those methyl groups, and B12, which is the methylcobalamin, is what your body uses to place those methyl groups where they need to go. Think of folate as the building material and B12 as the builder. You need both for your nervous system, your hormones, your brain chemistry, your detox system, and pregnancy development to work in harmony. If one is low, the other can't do its job. And that's why so many women feel like their bodies are trying, but they're just not quite getting there. Obviously, our best way to get those B vitamins is to eat them, but we can't always do that these days. So some of the richest natural sources of folate are leafy greens like spinach and romaine, lentils, beans, avocado, citrus fruits, beets, and egg yolks. God already put folate in the foods that nourish our life. It's not complicated. It's just been crowded out by processed and fortified foods that are taking the place of that folate in our bodies. So I will include a list in the blog when I get it up of all the best foods in folate. But like I said, all your green leafy vegetables, beans and lentils, everyday foods like avocados, citrus fruits, papaya, mangoes, beets, carrots, animal sources, if you eat them, egg yolks, grass-fed liver, more power to you. And liver is actually one of the richest natural folate foods on the planet. So go after liver. For sure, you'll see folate listed on labels of bread, pasta, cereals, and crackers, but those are fortified with folic acid, the synthetic form. So when we talk about food sources, we're talking about whole, unfortified, God-grown foods. So it gets tricky if you see that folate on those fortified ingredient labels. So if we can reduce on top of adding those foods, but if there's certain things we can reduce in our life, we can make a huge difference. So start by reducing, obviously, fortified grains and cereals, foods labeled enriched or fortified, supplements containing folic acid, or, this is the big word that I always have a problem with, cyanocobalamin, which is what my B12 was. I used to take B12, and the reason is because that's the synthetic form of B12. So I went down a rabbit hole on this because it's telling me not to take it, and here I am taking B12 shots, or I used to. It's a lab-made synthetic form of B12. It's created by binding vitamin B12 to a cyanide molecule. Yes, real cyanide, but at an extremely tiny, technically, quote, safe level. But the problem is your body has to convert that cyanocobalamin into methylcobalamin, the usable form of B12, basically, and detoxify off that cyanide molecule. So it requires lots of extra energy from the body, and it provides absolutely no biological advantage. So that's why it's not recommended. So I actually had a doctor who changed my B12 shots from the cyanocobalamin to taking me to a pharmacy that made more natural forms of B12. So methylcobalamin is what we call the active form of B12, which is the form the body can use immediately without needing to convert it. So even though that's synthetic, and people will hear that, and I did. So does that mean it's natural and not synthetic? The answer is not always. Active does not always mean it's naturally sourced. It means it's biologically recognizable. So your body says, oh, I know what to do with this. It doesn't have to use extra energy that it needs to be using other places. It doesn't wear you out, and it can use it immediately for the process of methylation. So even methylcobalamin can be made in a lab, but the important thing is that it matches the form your body actually uses. So the body recognizes it, it can receive it, it doesn't have to work first to turn it into something usable. So when I recommend methylcobalamin, it's not because it's perfect and pure in every way, it's because it's just the form that honors the design of how your body works. So just this one swap, by taking out these fortified and enriched ingredients or foods from your life and recognizing that you need to get the methylated form of folate, it's going to make a world of difference in your life. It's truly mind-blowing how our bodies are fearfully and wonderfully made, and the perfect orchestra between these God-given nutrients designed to serve our bodies well and how we kind of mess things up whenever we start messing with it ourselves, because God made us perfectly. He made our food perfectly. And then when we start getting these other things that we've messed with, we originally thought would be, oh, great, this is, we can use folic acid for this. And now it turns out in the long run that, we've been tested, it's not as good as we thought it was. So the super summed up version is that we need folate, a natural vitamin, B9, found in nature. But the world fortified all of our processed foods with folic acid, which is synthetic and unusable folate, until it can be methylated or converted to a usable form. So vitamins B2, 6, and 12 work as a team to carry out the entire conversion process properly. So you don't need to be perfect. Again, your body does not need dozens of supplements either. You're not behind. Simply, our goal is to remove what blocks this methylation pathway, replace it with what your body actually recognizes as natural, real nutrition, and let healing be a slow process. God is such a patient gardener. I always love gardener connections, but Jeremiah 30:17 says, I will restore health to you and heal your wounds, declares the Lord. Restoration is not rushed. It is tended to, and you are being tended to if you are in the process of struggling with folate, or just recognizing that we need to make a conscious decision between choosing products that are fortified or if they have folic acid, and the difference between folic acid and folate. But the growth is in the process. If this episode brought clarity, please share it with someone who may need to hear it as well. Thank you so much for being a Becoming Natural fan. I am so appreciative of you, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Talk soon. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you've enjoyed today's episode, hit that follow button, leave a 5-star review if you're so willing, and help spread the message of Becoming Natural by sharing it with a friend. Check out the resources in the show notes and join the email list to stay on top of all the latest and greatest happenings at Becoming Natural as we roll out exciting new things while we grow. Until next time, take those baby steps to a more natural life and always give yourself grace. Progress, not perfection, is the goal. See you next week.